Cleaned up all the bearings, cleaned up all the holes that the main caps are gonna go into. Now it's time to start applying some of this Permatech Ultra Slick. I've already cleaned these cam caps, and remember, from front to back, all the tangs point to the back, except for cap number 5. So this is cap 1, that's the front, tangs point to the back, and then you got 1 through 4 is gonna look like 1, and then the very last one is the oddball because the tangs, which are right here, turn the opposite direction. The thrust washer is unlike all the other bearings, meaning that it has part of the bearing goes on the front half and the back half. Don't forget to lubricate that. That's going to be riding on the crankshaft as well. Overhead view of the orientation of the main caps. Those are the tangs that I'm talking about. All of them are pointing to the left, or excuse me, pointing to the right, except for the very last one, number 5. So now we're gonna put all of the main cap hardware into place. So got me a little bit of oil. A little bit of oil needs to be applied to all of the studs. Get them started by hand. The ones with the stud on it go on the outside. The 13mm headed ones go on the inside. Also make sure you clean out all of your holes. I got all of the main cap hardware tight, finger tight into place with oil on them. This is the point where now I tap down the caps. I use the main cap hardware bolts to help center it. And there we go. All of these are tightened down to 15 foot-pounds. First tight sequence, 15 foot-pounds inside out. I'm gonna go ahead and set the thrust. Got me a little baby torque wrench. Set this at 15 foot-pounds. Start with the inside bolts. Foot-pounds of torque. Everything is at 15 foot-pounds. GM recommends the next step to be a torque to angle. But if you calculate torque to angle and basically come here and torque, anyways, torque to angle is equivalent to 65 on the inners and 55 on the outers. So that's what I'm gonna do on my build. All right, outer bolts, inside out in a cross hatching pattern, 55. So I'm gonna go down 10. I'm going down 10 foot-pounds. Moment of truth, see how it turns. It's got a little resistance on it because this juice is super thick. All right, we're to the point now where we're ready to install our pistons. Few things you gotta take in consideration. The orientation of the piston. The little dot on the piston points to front. We've already verified that this little indentation on this rod is the opposite of the dot on the piston. So that indentation is gonna point to the back. Second thing, very important, is our orientation of our piston rings. I drew this out just so it's easier for me to look at. And then we also need a specialized tool to install this. I've got like one of the old school tools, but in this case, I decided to purchase this tool right here from Summit Racing. This one here is a universal tool. It's a 4.09. It's got a 10mm daggone clamp that you could just tighten up. And then also we need to make sure our bores are lubricated with oil. We need to make sure there's a little bit of oil inside of this. And then we also need to make sure there's oil on these rings before we compress it and slide it into place. See how good this tool works. Perfect. I definitely recommend it. Now I gotta make sure that the rod is gonna go right around the crank, or I need to make sure that the part of the crank that this bolts up to is at the bottom. One thing I forgot to do is put assembly lube also on the bottom part of that rod. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then I'm gonna knock the rest of these out. I almost forgot, you got these little bolts right here that go in all the sides of the mains. All you need to do is get you a little bit of high temperature or the red RTV and smear a little bit on the shank on this bolt. Something like that. It's a 10 millimeter, 18 foot-pounds. All right, the whole motor's complete, and now we're to the point where it's time, well, hold on. So the block is complete. Now we need to install the oil pump. So let me show you what oil pump we decided to choose. Wow! This pump that we're using on my LS build is the Mellon 10296. This is considered a high pressure, high volume. I wanted a little bit extra pressure. A little bit extra pressure ain't gonna hurt nothing, but I also want to do the extra volume. And then on top of that, I got the Canton oil pan, which is like 7.7 or somewhere around the 7.5 to 8 quarts. I shouldn't have any issues with running the oil pump dry. And then with the turbo lines, like I said, the external or the remote oil filter relocation kit, I probably end up doing an oil cooler as well. I felt like this oil pump would fit the job. It comes with 2 different size springs. This, I believe, is the Copar spring if you want to do something with the volume. Then this spring here is if you want to change it from 70 PSI to 8 to 10 PSI less, you would use this spring here, the blue spring with the plug. And then another thing it comes with also, it comes with 2 different size oil O-rings. And if you look at the instructions here, it tells you whether you need the O-ring for figure 1 or the O-ring for figure 2. Make a long story short, if you look at that picture, it's not straight. It's got like a lip for the O-ring to sit on, and then that one got some tapered end. This is the one we had, which is ended up being a straight end. And if you can look at it, you can tell you got that bubble to the left, but then from that bubble to the end is straight. It doesn't flare, and then it doesn't have a lip for the O-ring to fit. Now we got to rotate all the rods at the very top so that we can torque them all down to 50 foot-pounds using an 11 millimeter socket. Actually 15, we're gonna do 15 foot-pounds first, then we're gonna torque them to 50. Now it's time to install this camshaft. We got all our lifter and lifter bucket trays installed. We got the top cover installed, as well as the knock sensor that we are not using, so I'm not plugging them up. I'll probably put a little bit of RTV around there to keep that into place. We got our oil feed installed, camshaft positioning sensor. We got our Canton oil pan on. And the only thing we need to do to finish up the front of this is we need to put our front timing cover on. But my front timing cover gasket that came off the original motor, the black part of it cracked, broke off. So we need to get a new one of those. But now we're to the point where it's time to install the cylinder head. So let me go ahead and clean off both of these surfaces. And then I need to grab a dowel pin from my other block. And then we can go ahead and install our head with a new head gaskets. Let me show you what head gaskets we're using. Wow! On this go around, we're gonna use an OEM head gasket. Before I use a LS9, which is pretty much thicker than the factory one. But to be honest with you, the factory ones seem to be pretty good. I wanna say they're a 5-ply. But either way, this is what we're gonna use. We're gonna check it out, see how well it does. But let's go ahead and clean up this surface to get it prepared for this. All right, I've already cleaned my 317 heads. All I did was use my Dollar General juice that is very effective, oven cleaner. Sprayed it down with water, rinse it off thoroughly with the air compressor, and then I carefully wiped it down with a combination of acetone and the microfiber cloth. So now I got my dowel pins into place, and it's time to install our gasket and install our cylinder head.
Day. I don't even know what day it is, what to say when dictation ain't conveying it, so I just keep replaying it and waiting a bit for the pop. Magic in the lane as I toss a teardrop. Fear not, get it pumping while it's seeping through your veins. A little something, something like Anita's IPAs to the face by the case.
All right, we're to the point where I got the gasket on and I got the cylinder head. And as far as head bolts or head studs, my choice is ARP head bolts. These are not the studs. My personal opinion, the studs are better because you get most of the clamping force on the top compared to having to torque this thing and this whole bolt actually twisting. But anytime you use ARP hardware, you always got to use their ARP lube. I got a generation motor where all of the bolts are long except for 2 of them. The 2 are the outside on the top as far as all of these 13mm heads go. So I'm gonna apply my lube. My ARP lube is gonna go basically on the threads, and it's gonna go in between the washer and the flange on the bolt. And then these washers do matter. It's hard to see, but the top half of this washer is rounded and the bottom half is flat. So of course the flat side is gonna go to the flat mating surface on the head. Torque specs are 15, 25, 75. Torque specs are 25, 50, and then the final pass 75 foot-pounds. I'm gonna need my short extension. Torque these to 22 foot-pounds. Oh, it's an 8 millimeter.